Hello everyone, my name is Iris Franz. 我叫梁婉如. Today we're going to talk about the first theorem of welfare economics. The bottom line of this video clip is this: all market equilibria are efficient. So we're going to prove that this is true. So how are we going to prove that? We are going to assume that there is a market outcome that is inefficient, and we're going to show a contradiction. Then we will know that our assumption that the market outcome being inefficient must have been a wrong assumption. To refresh your memory, if you remember that initially we have two agents, Alice and Bob, and their initial endowment was W, where Alice is endowed with omega A1 units of good 1, omega A2 units of good 2, and Bob was endowed with omega B1 units of good 1 and omega B2 units of good 2. After they trade, they reach a new allocation of good 1 and good 2, where Alice is consuming XA1 units of good 1, XA2 units of good 2, and Bob is consuming XB1 units of good 1 and XB2 units of good 2. Now we're going to assume that this allocation X is inefficient. That means we can find another allocation Y, which is feasible and also better than X for all agents. So first of all, feasibility. That tells us if we sum up the new allocation of Y, so the consumption of Alice in good 1 and Bob's consumption in good 1, we sum that up, and that's the same as our initial endowment in good 1. And also for good 2, if you sum up Alice and Bob's new allocation Y, you sum up the good 2, you're going to get the initial endowment of good 2. So that is feasibility. And I call that equation 32.1 and 32.2. And also, this allocation is better than X for all agents. That means Alice prefers this consumption bundle Y, and Bob also prefers his consumption bundle Y. But then we assume rationality. That means when agents trade, they are going to exhaust their entire budget to purchase the best bundle available. And we know initially they bought bundle X. So they didn't buy bundle Y. That means, hey, it must be that bundle Y was unaffordable in the beginning. So we know that if you calculate the cost of bundle Y for Alice, it is going to be greater than her initial income. So after she sold all her endowment, she couldn't afford to buy Y. That's why she didn't buy Y in the beginning. Same for Bob. So I'm going to call these two equations 32.A and 32.B. And that's because of rationality. They didn't buy Y because they couldn't afford it. And now I'm going to sum up these two equations, 32.A and 32.B. I am summing them up and I'm pulling out the price. So I'm not changing anything, I'm just summing them up and pulling out the price. Now because of feasibility, I know that the sum of consumption for good 1 from Alice and Bob must be equal to the initial endowment of good 1 for Alice and Bob. And same for good 2 because of feasibility. So now I can replace YA1 plus YB1 with omega A1 plus omega B1. So I'm going to plug this equation in here. I'm replacing Y with omega. Same for here, I'm replacing Y with omega. And now you have P1 times omega plus P2 times omega is greater than itself. And that's clearly a contradiction. So we know that this cannot be. And why do we have this contradiction? That's because we assumed that X was inefficient. So that assumption was wrong. So X must be efficient to begin with. Therefore, we know that all market equilibria are efficient. And that's the first theorem of welfare economics. I hope this helps. I'll see you next time.